friends, this is Carly and I'm back today with another review. So today I'm really excited to be talking about my very first light novel title. And before I tell you what that title is, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what I thought of light novels, and now after getting into this series, what I've learned and some recommendations for people who might be picking up light novels for the first time. So now looking back on it, what I assumed light was meant by light novel is a little bit silly. So I sort of assumed that a light novel was like a book take on an anime or manga, which isn't necessarily untrue, but that it was written, it was like a watered down version that was super easy to consume with less pictures. I'm not entirely sure that I'm expressing that clearly, but just sort of an easy, light read. This isn't right. So basically what I learned after picking up this light novel is that what a light novel series actually is comparable to, in America, what we call a YA or young adult novel. And young adult novels are specifically tailored to readers ages 12 to 18 in America. Now, I will say there are some cultural differences, obviously, between Japan and America that make that a little bit iffy to me. For example, the book I'm going to talk about today, I would think that 12 would be pretty young for some of the content in this book. I would say this is more a book for someone between the ages of 16, 17 and up. But that also said, it would really be up to every individual. So if you were going to give this book to a child, you might want to read some of the first few pages. I'll talk about the scenes that I'm referring to specifically and decide if it's right for you. That's all I'm really going to say about the age group. But I also want to mention that it's really important to note that YA has a mass appeal for readers of all ages. For instance, Harry Potter is a YA novel. And the book that I'm going to be talking about today definitely, I think, has appeal to readers of all ages. And I was just really so impressed with what was contained within this book. So I'm just gonna get to it because I'm obviously too excited to keep my opinion to myself on this one. The book I'm talking about today is Skeleton Knight in Another World. Here is the cover. On the cover there we see our skeleton knight. His name is Ark, and the dark elf Ariane, or Ariane. I kind of like Ariane better, so that's what I'm gonna go with because there's no anime out there to question me. So, Skeleton Knight in Another World uses a very familiar trope that has become insanely popular in anime and manga in the past several years, and that is our main character finds himself suddenly dropped into the world of his favorite video game. Now, for me, the video game trope, I typically tend to prefer having video games in my anime and manga with some good examples of those are The World God Only Knows or Welcome to the NHK. I love having video game elements in my stories, but I haven't always been in love with the world of the story being the video game. And there's a few examples of that, but I don't want anybody to get too mad at me. So typically this isn't the type of story I gravitate towards necessarily, but I will say that in the case of this story, this is a really brilliantly executed device for creating the world that we are living in. As I talked about a couple of videos ago, I think it was 2 videos ago, when we're creating a fantasy world, it is so critical from the very beginning of the story for the author to let the reader know what we're dealing with. What is the magic structure in this world if there is one? What is the political climate? What types of races and magical creatures are there and how do they interact with one another? What are the languages that are spoken? Are there language barriers? All of these kinds of questions when creating a fantasy world have to be answered right away so that the reader can understand what type of world we're dealing with and how the story exists within that world. So in the case of Skeleton Knight in Another World, the being dropped into a video game device is really, really brilliant and works really well for this type of storytelling because our main character, Ark, is very familiar with the world, although it is sort of a topsy-turvy situation. He knows that he's going to have to figure out certain things in order to survive in this world. And for us, as the reader, him using his survival skills drawn from the game that he likes allows us to learn very quickly and very efficiently everything we need to know about the world that he has found himself in. So I really do like it in this story because it really is used as a device for world creation to this point. I only read the first volume. I have 2 volumes to go, and the 4th volume will be out in May. So this is a continuing series, and the video game might come into play a little bit more. We'll have to see about that. But in this volume, I really liked the way that it was used. So our story starts off with Ark, the skeleton knight, finding himself in his video game. He's not sure how he's gotten there, but very quickly he becomes aware that when he takes off his helmet and people see a skeleton head, that this could cause some problems for him. In addition, his armor is very elaborate and very extravagant, and that could also cause some problems for him. So as he's trying to figure out how he's going to get to the next town, find a place to stay, find something to eat, he hears an attack taking place on the hill below. He looks over and sees 2 women being attacked by a pack of bandits. These women are Lauren and Rita of the Louvierte noble family. Rita is the handmaiden to Lauren. And Ark sees what's happening to them, steps in, rescues them, gets a chance to try out some of the skills that he knows from the game, learns some things about his abilities and their crossovers from other characters that he'd played in the past, handily deals with the bandits, and this is the start of our adventure. So what I really love about this story is that Ark is a really well-drawn normal dude in a crazy situation, and the way that he's discovering the world around him, as I said, using the video game device is really effective and makes sense. So even though this is a wild scenario in a fantasy world, you don't feel torn out of your own reality to get into this one. It's a very smooth transition, it's very clearly drawn, and the adventure starts right away with that first encounter with these 2 female characters. And I will say that the scene with Lauren and Rita and the bandits is the scene specifically that I'm talking about that I definitely would not recommend for children under the age of 16 and 17. So if you were thinking about giving this to a child, the scene that I'm talking about is very early in the book, and you might want to read it before you consider giving that to a young person. Moving on from all of that, though, after this scene with Rita and Lauren, Ark knows what he needs to get to travel. So for his reward, he only asks for a travel pass so that he doesn't have to pay taxes, which is an element of the game. And he moves on to become a mercenary, which he correctly assumes is the best way for him to travel in his gear and make money. And the adventures that he has throughout the rest of the book are based on him taking mercenary jobs. I'm sorry, I might have said missionary before. I meant mercenary. So the adventures are really well structured. Everything is very linear. And throughout the book, it seems that bandits and monsters are the problem that Ark is facing. But by the end of the volume, we learn that there is a much bigger, much darker element at play here. And by the end of the story, he has encountered several groups of people. He is beginning to amass what we realize will be his troop, his group that he's working with. And we're left with a very satisfying cliffhanger that really just had me wanting to read more. This book, you guys, is so good. At about 350 pages, I was able to read this book in 2 afternoons. I could not put it down. Literally, I could not put it down. I carried it in my purse with me. I would have it handy so I could grab a couple pages here and there. It is so well written. So the language is straightforward, direct, simple, easy to understand. The video game device, as I said, does not bother me because it makes the world creation so clear and easy. The characterizations are clear, well drawn. Every character gets a background, even down to the magical creature who befriends Ark. They call them, they're like little foxes, spirit foxes. It's the little green squirrel-looking character up there. His name is Ponta, and he has a complete background. So no detail is left to the imagination. The author does an amazing job of moving through the story linearly and leaving nothing to question other than things that will be revealed to us later in the story. And please forgive me, but this story is by ENNKI HAKARI, and the illustrations, which there are very few of, are by either Keji or Keg. I'm not entirely sure. I'll show you that. And this is from 7 Seas Entertainment. So, the adventure starts right off and is paced quickly. There's a lot going on in different parts of the kingdom that Arcus found himself in, and we get to see different elements of the intrigue and the drama that are taking place throughout this world, while we also follow Arc as he gets his group together. I absolutely love this. It has a Lord of the Rings type vibe on a slightly lighter scale. It has a fairy tale type vibe on a slightly more serious scale. It's just got everything that I would love about a fantasy story. And for my first light novel, I couldn't have been more excited. I literally had other things to read for reviews and videos and all kinds of content that I want to make, and it was so hard for me not to pick up the second volume and start it. I cannot wait to see where this story goes, and I'm so hopeful that there will be an anime after reading the first book and the manga, which is here now. Volume 2 of the manga will be out this month. I just can't imagine that it won't be picked up for an anime series. It's so rife for that. Moving on from the light novel to the manga, I will say that every single thing, every single critical point from this first volume is in the manga, and I will say that they lighten it up significantly. So the manga is definitely appropriate for that YA audience from ages 12 to 18. The book gets more heavily into some of the violence, although the violence in this is very feudal. It's like sword and shield and magic type violence, so that didn't really, I don't think that's really, it's very fantasy based. Everything in the manga, though, is completely appropriate, I would say, for almost all ages. I don't think there's anything in here that I would be concerned with a child reading. The artwork in this is based on Keg's artwork from the first volume of the light novel, but the artist here is Akira Sawano, and it's just incredible, you guys. I really love, I'm a really big fan of little of full panels. I don't really know how else to describe it. I think that the ratio of words to art in this book are perfect. I talk about that a lot because when you get a manga, you don't want to read a novel. When you get a novel, you don't want to look at a million pictures. And the balance in both of these is great. There are a few panels in the book of artwork. Let me show you. It'll be like a page like this. And they start out with a few really gorgeous glossies. But this is a true novel. This isn't a picture book, and this is a true manga. It's not a short story with pictures. So I really was happy with both of these, and that's another reason why I'm so excited for the potential for an anime, although 7 Seas hasn't said anything about that. I'm just hoping and praying. This book has elves, it has magic, it has swordplay, it has adventure, there are peasants and lords and ladies, all of the things that are amazing and make a great fantasy world, and it's just really written well. I am so excited now for the other 2 light novel series I picked up, although, I feel like I might have hit lightning in a bottle with this author because I read a lot, and I know that not every author can do what ENNKI Hakari has done in this book, which is have nothing extra, have everything perfect. Like, this book was really well thought out and really well put together, and it's fast-paced, fun, and it's really just one of the best straight-up novels I've read in a really long time, with cute artwork in some of the chapters as well. So, for my very first light novel series, there were a couple of people on my Annoying You with Friendship Facebook page who wanted me to start with this one. If you read this, thank you, and thank you for getting me to start with this, because I cannot recommend Skeleton Knight in Another World enough. I think that everyone who is maybe interested in picking up a light novel should start with this. This has me so excited about light novels. It's opened up an entire new genre to me, and not to mention the manga and continued series I absolutely can't wait for. So Skeleton Knight in Another World is a win on every single front. There is literally nothing I can criticize about it other than the fact that the YA age range might be a little bit young, in my opinion, for the novel, but as far as the manga goes, this is great for everyone. So that is my review of my very first light novel, you guys. I'm really excited about this book. I'm really excited for others to read it. Please, if you have any interest in reading this book, pick it up. Tell me what you think. If you've read it, tell me what you think. If you didn't like it, which I can't imagine, but if you didn't like it, tell me what you didn't like about it. I'd love to talk about this book. It was a wonderful start for me, and I can't wait to be bringing more light novel reviews in the future. Thank you all so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate your support. Please like if you liked this video and subscribe to my channel. You can check Annoying You with Friendship's Facebook page for more updates, reviews coming up, and I will be back to you with another video on Monday. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.